Going live. All right. Hello. Welcome to Battle Map Brawl. This is the Wizard Live Support. It's a talk show where you can ask your Dungeons and Dragons questions, give your advice and opinions, and actually join the live stream. Okay. So if this is your first time here, let me go ahead and lay down the ground rules for you. All right. So, ground rule number one, right? If you see that fireball scrolling on the screen, that indicates that the stream hasn't started yet. If you're watching this live stream at a later time, go ahead and skip to the start if you like. I'll make sure to leave a timestamp in the description for you. But if you are here with us, this is ground rule number 2. Hello, Alexander. I see you spamming some hundreds, so thank you. So ground rule number 2. If you're here live with us, we start right at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So, and this is our time right now. If you're here to mess around, joke around, ask any questions, totally up for that. Okay. Ground rule number 3. I encourage you to participate in the conversation. Okay. So use the chat. So I'm going to write in friendly chat over here. Boom, right there in the chat. I want you to ask your questions. I want you to ask or share your advice, especially if you are a veteran, and to help out those new players, or opinions. Maybe you don't quite agree with me, and that's okay. All right. So make sure to share that. But like I mentioned, this is a talk show. So ground rule number 4, I want you to come onto the talk show, and the way you do that is by typing out fireball. Where we go? If I can type this faster. Boom. I use the slash. Any slash works, okay? But type it out, and that lets me know that you actually want to come on to the live stream and maybe have your questions answered on that topic, share your advice on the topic that we're currently talking about, or maybe you want to share your opinions, okay? So totally welcome that. Awesome. So yeah, so we're going to just chill here for a couple of minutes. Hello, JRR24, bonjour. Oh, from Louisiana. Okay. I have not been to Louisiana yet. So I've been to a few states here in the U.S., but not as many. But are the alligators good out there, and the lobsters? You gotta let me know. You gotta let me know if that stuff is good or not. But yeah, so we're gonna start here in 5 minutes or so, okay? And I'm just making sure I pretty much got everything ready. I just want to make sure that things are ready for today's topic. I think I pretty much got everything. So I'm just looking at the chat right now, and I know there's a delay because that's just how chats work. But it is awesome. So alligators are good. Okay. I'll make sure to eat some. Make sure that everyone go next time you go to a restaurant and there's alligator on the menu. Make sure to grab some. Okay. But awesome. How's everyone doing tonight? Also, share with me. I wrote this in the welcome message. Is let me know what was your first character class that you chose for your character, and if you haven't played a class yet, haven't played the game yet, maybe you're just getting ready. What class are you thinking of? Right. So I'm totally here to help everyone who is new, and hopefully this community gets together and plays. Helps each other out, right? That's what it's about here. So yeah, I don't put any music here on the stream. Maybe I should start putting some stream. You guys like the update? I have a new update. I made the little fireball thing right here. All right, kind of gave it a nice color. Hey, Taro Soul, doing good. Watching. We'll making scores. Okay, scones. Excuse me, not scores. Scones. Awesome. I like scones. I remember the first time I used to work at Panera when I was younger, and they had amazing scones. So what type of scones are you making? You have crawfish. Oh, that's true. Crawfish. You should try some gumbo. I haven't tried some gumbo. The closest thing that I got to it was when I was in the army. So I did for boot camp, one time for lunch they gave gumbo, but I was like, I just ate it, but I wasn't sure if it was authentic or not. It probably was. I was in South Carolina, so it probably was good. But you're talking about like a military cafeteria food gumbo, so it's not like exactly probably the best. Chocolate chip English scones, I believe. Okay, you're trying new stuff. Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate seeing familiar faces out here. So yeah, we got 3 more minutes here. I was waiting. Oh, let me stop this real quick. Replay. Oh, okay, doing good. Yeah, I'm excited for this today's topic, and I keep getting some hair in my mouth, so I keep moving my mustache to the side. Oh man. Yeah. So we got 2 more minutes here. Make sure to spam those reactions. That's what it's called. They're not emojis, but oh, I made some emojis. Let me know what you guys think of these. We got the regular fireball. We got fireball with the funny nose. I didn't make the top hat better, but fancy fireball. And then vampire fireball. I want to put up 4 right now until actually can get members again. So okay, we got 1 more minute and then we'll get started here. Making sure everyone who wants to be here can be here. Yeah. And if you haven't said hello yet, make sure to say hello here in the chat. All right. This is a place to conversate, share your opinions, share your advice, right? Interact with each other. You know, if you have a question, be like, hey, JJR24, how does, actually go ahead and answer this for me if you can. How does gumbo taste? I had like cafeteria gumbo, which probably is no good as real gumbo. So describe it for me. That'd be awesome. Does your home state have legends? What do you mean by legends? Probably not. I'm not sure if you're setting up a joke or so. League of Legends or something like that. All right. Go ahead and answer that, and I'll make sure to read it as we get started. But what we're going to do right now, it is 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's topic, okay? So I forgot I changed it earlier. Okay. So this is the Wizard Life Support Hour here. This is DND Talk Show. We're about to start now. So today's topic is what D&D class should you play? Okay. And this is more aimed towards beginners, but some of the advice here is going to be helpful even towards maybe even some seasoned adventurers. Okay. So again, as you guys probably already know, at this time, use the chat, right? If I'm saying something you want to add to it, do it, right? Ask your questions. You got your advice, add your advice, opinions. All right. And then at any time, you can join, right? Make sure you write fireball in the chat. And that let me know, like, hey, I want to join this live stream. And then you can click on that link pinned to the top of the chat, or it's in the description. Okay. And I'll make sure to just wait for me to read your name. Otherwise, I might kick you off from the background. But other than that, make sure like this video, share. Okay. So invite any friends who want to be here today. And before we start, as JRR24, gumbo tastes wonderful. Well, I asked him how it tastes, and he says it tastes wonderful. It's a brothy stew. Okay. Maybe we'll try to make some California style gumbo, which is probably no comparison. But okay. So that is the topic. Let's get started. What D&D class should you play? And I made a couple of notes here for myself here just to make sure I'm staying on track. But there's mainly 2 things that a new player should be considering when picking your class for the very first time, right? There might be you might be thinking of playing a D&D for the first time because maybe your friends play and they have invited you, right? Like, hey, you should come and check this out. Or maybe you're just kind of like a lone wolf guy, but you're like interested in playing and you're doing your research. Okay. A lot of the stuff I want to provide today is also give little tips for anyone who's shy or like maybe like a lot of fighting type of adventures in your game. Um, try to appeal to different players. Okay, so but let's go ahead and start with this. So I say the number one thing, regardless of what I say today, right? I can say that this class really really sucks and you shouldn't play it, right? Regardless of what I say today, go after the class that most excites you. Okay. And the reason for that is when you making your character and picking a class for your character goes along with it. I compare it to like a Harry Potter movie marathon. And what I mean by that is when you play D&D, a lot of times you don't just sit down for like a 1 or 2 hour movie, right? And you call it a day. You go ahead and you play multiple sessions, which might last weeks, months, or sometimes years, right? So you can't play those short games. We call those one shots, where it might be 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, and call it done. But most time when you make a character, you're going to play them for a long time, and that means your class is important. Um, and you can always multi-class into other stuff. And I really want to go really beginner friendly today. Like, what's a class? Maybe you never played a video game before, so I'm gonna go over the classes today, just really quickly as well. But I see a question here in the chat real quick. Does your state have ghosts, stories, monsters, magic, willing creatures? I'm gonna say yes, but I just never hear anything of California having um certain like just ghosts like that. Parents are from Mexico, so you hear the Cucuy La Llorona type stuff when it comes to scary stories, or the Chupacabra, right? So I think I'm more familiar with the Mexican monsters and stories than any California ones. Maybe like some minor town like Jamestown, Gold Rush type of stuff. There's probably stories there, but yeah, nothing that pops up into mind. Okay, but getting back into topic here. So that's the first thing. Make sure go after the class that most excites you. Okay, and that might sound really basic, but really trust me, when it's your first time picking something and you're gonna be with that character for a while, you want to be excited about them. Okay, and the second thing you want to consider here is time. Okay, and what I mean by that is, you know, when we're out having fun, of course we're going to add time to it, but there's also time between your schooling, right? If you go to school, maybe you're working, the time that you spend with your family. So what I want to do is make sure to point out to you which class is going to help you save, how much time does it require, especially for someone who's new, because sometimes if you're super busy, then you might not want to play a certain class just because it it will require a little bit more of your time or your research to actually do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of like switch screens here. Um, and then Alexander said California actually has a lot of urban legends. Go ahead and share some urban legends if you do know, Alexander, because I don't know too many urban legends. I mean, boom. Okay, awesome. So this is where I want to start with. Literally, after I talk about this is going to be a little short section here. You can be like, okay, we're done, right? We're done with today's video, and we can call it a day, right? So what I want to do here is essentially talk to you which classes you should be going for if you're pressed for time. Again, but regardless of what I say, if you're excited about a certain class, go for it. Okay. But I want to give a brief description of each one, let you know what time requirements are, and then as we're going along, maybe afterwards, I want you, I'm going to be kind of ranking them by like as fast, how fast are you able to make that character, also leveling up, the leveling up process, each single time you level up your character, and then how like time consuming it is, which the less, so it goes from fast, okay amount of time, maybe you gotta do a little research, till like this is taking forever, especially if you're a new player, okay? And even some veteran players, when it comes to certain classes that take a longer amount of time, it just does. It doesn't take like 1 hour, it takes a couple hours. So, but cool. So when it comes to classes, there's generally 3 types of classes you can think of. You have your melee classes. You have your half-casters. Okay, so melee, I think more self-explanatory. They can hit with weapons. You can throw knives, spears. Maybe they have a shield, and mainly rely on their physical abilities than some sort of magic. Okay, where a half-caster is going to have a combination of both. So half-caster is going to have some magic, and it's going to have some just be able to use weapons or machinery. And I'll go a little bit of depth into each character class. So if this is your first time really seeing any of the D&D classes, then you have a good idea. Okay. And then you got spellcasters, which can do, some of them can be really good with some physical, like weapons and whatnot, but mainly they're relying on their magical abilities, which might be more arcane or divine in nature or nature. And just so you know, this class is considered a spellcaster, but I'll explain why I have him as a half-caster later on. Okay, so I won't go over each one of these, but just so you know, before we started kind of going to depth in each single class, and again, you guys already know, write in the chat. Let me know if you want to come onto the live stream. You have a question, write them down. Okay, but as we're going along from each class, I'll make sure at the end to move each one where I feel, like it'd be best for a beginner. Okay, but in general, a melee class is going to be a lot less time consuming, so it's going to be faster to make a character than any of the other ones. Okay, so that those classes are barbarians, fighters, rogues, monks, and then this is the extra class. It's not technically official, but it's really popular. It's called Blood Hunter, and we're going to talk about each one. And again, we're going to just general talk here, and then I'll transfer over to the main tier list, if you want to say. All right, our half-casters take a little more time. Okay, and the reason why I say the melee ones are a little bit better is just as far as learning the game, as far as amount of time that you need to put in, is because it's pretty straightforward. You can read and the class understand, okay, this is what my character does. This is like, they attack, they run, they do this, they punch, right? Pretty straightforward. They throw stuff. When it comes to D&D, anytime all of a sudden you start adding magic elements to it, you have to take a little more time and kind of almost do a little research on the spells, because you want to understand what your magic abilities do. So that's where the half-casters fall in. They're a mix of the melee, but they do have some spell elements, just like the half-caster, like the full spellcasters, but it's a lot more restricted. Literally, I think half. So I don't know the exact number, but as an example, most our spellcasters can go all the way to level 9 spells, and half-casters only go up to 5. Yeah, I believe it's 5. Okay, so literally they are half-casters, but it's still, because you are adding that magic element to it, they take longer than a melee class. Okay, so these classes here are Artificer, Ranger, Paladin, and then again, Warlock is a full spellcaster. Just so you know, it is a full spellcaster, but lately they've been playing around with it. The developers, the D&D developers, have been playing around with it, and regardless, almost it plays more like a half caster, even though you can have level 9 spells with the Warlock like these other spellcasters. You don't get as many spell slots right now, and they're playing with it, and they're actually in the last playtest they actually even made it into a half caster, excuse me. So I'm kind of putting it in there because most of the play style kind of falls within this range. Okay, and then lastly, and again, this is the short version of things. You don't call it a day. Okay, spellcasters, they take the longest to play because not to play, to create a lot of times when choosing your class, because you have to read into each of the spells, right? So you got Cleric, Bard, Druid, Sorcerer, and Wizard, and they just take a little bit more time. Okay, but that's just the general. But what I want to do is literally go into each class, describe each class a little bit more, and then even go a little bit more in depth because I noticed there's 4 categories here, and I just want to make sure that regardless of what your motivation is for each character, you can really choose what sounds best for you, especially when you're a new player. Okay, so let me know how I'm doing here so far in the chat, guys. Give me hundreds, some reactions, this and that, all helps to let me know I'm doing a good job if you guys liking this information. But I'm just getting a little quick list for me to make sure I stay on topic. So we're going to start, just because the Barbarian's here first, we're going to start with Barbarian. Okay, so and this is what I brought. So this is a Barbarian. The Barbarians, they're tough. They are going to be more of your offensive type characters. They're going to do damage, right? They're the type that you're going to run into a battle and really start doing the damage, really, at the end of the day. They are considered also tanks. So the Barbarian gets the highest amount of hit points in the game. So they can take on the damage. So if you want to play that defender type of role where you want to protect the party, like really run in, keep the enemy busy while the other party members are they are running around and trying to find other ways to defeat the enemy, then this could be a good choice for you. And what I was going to mention here is kind of go through some criteria really, really quick. So yeah, they're pretty offensive. Like I was saying, they can tank. Simplicity, they're pretty simple to get a hang of. They have a thing called Rage, which it ups their damage. I'm not going to go super in depth into everything, but one thing I want to mention with all of the melee classes, they as you level up, you do have the option to take a subclass, excuse me, that does like some sort of magic, right? But here's some of the subclasses that you have. So Ancestral Guardian, kind of a little more nature wise. Battle Rager, literally have like this spiked armor. We got Berserker, which just has been updated in the new playtest that does really well. Got Totem Warrior, which makes you really tanky, depending on if you pick the bear or not. And there's other fun animal stuff. Seal Up helps you like revive, right? So, but overall, I'll say Barbarian is really simple to role play. You can literally, a lot of times you hear the dumb Barbarian type character, but you can really play any sort of Barbarian. You can play as a Conan the Barbarian, right? And this is a wild beast Barbarian and whatnot. Okay, so I would say at the end of the day, the Barbarian, I'll put it in fast no matter what, from beginning to end, right? From level 1 to level 20, you don't take too much time getting your character up to speed and make sure your character's ready to go for that next game session. So and I think there's a lot of flexibility there. Okay, so but yeah, let's keep going here. So next one we got Fighter. I forgot Fighter over here somewhere. Oh, boom, we landed right on there. Okay, so Fighter, a little bit different than the Barbarian. The Barbarians can can wield shields, right? You see a lot of fighters here with shields, but they're more expert class on different weapons. So you're gonna see a lot more weapon variety with these guys. So like you got halbergs. They're typically more trained. Um, and there's a lot of different flavors that you can get from them. There's a lot of opportunity to role play your character here. I would say that they're pretty straightforward as well. There are some subclasses that get maybe a little overwhelming for a beginner. I'm thinking of I can't think of it. I gotta actually look over here. I'm thinking of the Battlemaster, which gives you a lot of different options that you can do for your character. And there's a long list of stuff. So you're like, oh, now all of a sudden you're reading a bunch. But once you can kind of know them, you're fine. And there's a lot of different types of fighters you can play as, right? A samurai is a fighter. You have like a psychic warrior. You have a eldritch knight that does allow you to use magic, right? So a lot of these you can use magic. But yeah, for fighters are typically just like the barbarians, more on the offensive, right? They are that tank. They don't get as many hit points as the barbarians, but at the same time, their armor is making up for it. Maybe sometimes a little harder to hit. It all depends how you do that. And as far as role play goes, you have a lot of variety if you want to be that quiet samurai or like a very charismatic type of talker with what's the name of the subclass? I'm thinking Purple Dragon Knight is what I'm thinking. Where they don't call it Purple Dragon Baronet, they call that one, but they call this one the Purple Dragon Knight. Which you want to put some charisma to it. So there's a lot of, you can be kind of like Echo Knight, kind of makes shadows, right? So you can maybe even be not assassin necessarily, but a little more sneaky with them. So yeah, so going over here to this chart, and I'm kind of going through this quickly because otherwise we're gonna be here forever. I'll say as far as leveling up your character, the fighter is pretty straightforward. You're not going to have too many complications from level to level. And as far as a beginner goes, great class to start with, okay? Next I'm going to do the rogue, okay? So the rogue, let's find it. Oh, what's happening? There we go. Sorcerer, rogue. Boom. Okay, so the rogue, they're typically known as the like the sneaky stabby type persons. Like think Skyrim, every single time you try to sneak, where they could cheat, you are a rogue essentially. And a lot of role playing flavor with them. You have your typical like city rat type of thing, kind of like Aladdin, or you can be an assassin or a thief. So I'm thinking Catwoman from Batman, right? That'd be considered a rogue of some sort. And the cool thing about them is they're more, when it comes to being offensive, they're all about getting that damage. They're about getting up there close and really doing that damage. So you can see here we got assassin, we got mastermind. Phantom kind of gives them like some like psychic powers. Squashbuckler kind of make them a little more pirate, thief. Artificer gives the gives the rogue some magic that you can play with. So overall, straightforward. Again, they're more on the defensive side. Their hit points aren't as big as the barbarian or fighter, but they do have some, and they can be very helpful in certain situations because they're kind of skill monkey. Like they're able to unlock pick like lock doors, see traps, a lot easier than others, I should say. And just overall great character to role play with. You don't have to be this lonely, edgy dude to play one. You can be totally charismatic if you like, or you can be shy. Either way, you're gonna be a badass with this character, with this class. So as far as rogue goes, a lot of times, yeah, I'm just ranking them by speed. I was gonna move them up a little bit, but overall they're fast. So it's a great class to pick with. Next one here we got the monk. So monk is about here, hopefully. Oh, there we go. Cool. Bam. So monk, A little more Asian inspired. Dungeons and Dragons is working. The company is working on kind of changing that. They felt like they kind of locked too much into to Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee, um, just Shaolin monks type of stuff that you might see from like Street Fighter or so. So they're really trying to expand on that. One great description that so I forget his name, but the guy from DnD Shorts was saying you can think of your guy as just a regular drunk that fights at bar fights, and every single time he fights, he's just really good. Because I think there is a play test, not official subclass, I believe. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Drunken Master, right? So, um, but overall, when it comes to the monk, um, you can do a lot of great acrobatic type stuff. So if you want to be like running up walls, doing flips, jumping into the action, and then jumping out, similar to what Rogue would do, but just in a different style, um, then you definitely can. They're a little bit more like the Rogue, where you don't want to be in the combat. Like you're more standing your ground and you're punching, right? You can use some weapons, but typically you're not trying to be that tank for your party, right? You're figuring out what other ways to help out. So when it comes to the monk in general, right, with all the different types of subclasses that they have, which they have which they have many different types of subclasses. Um, Overall, they're pretty quick class to get a hang of and read. Probably the hardest thing is understanding their monk weapon, where it talks about like your weapon can be heavy. So like, what's a heavy weapon? Then you kind of gotta look that up. But overall, in general, pretty straightforward. Don't have to deal with magic too much in any sense. And generally, all these four are about the same there. Okay. Yep. Let me know how I'm doing, guys. Right, you got a question you want to add to this? Um, totally, totally happy to answer your questions here. JR, you said, I love reading Robert E. Howard Conan short stories. Oh, okay. Sweet. So as far as melee goes, the last one here on the melee is what can I say? Blood Hunter. There we go. Can come up with the words here. Blood Hunter, you're right here. Boom. Okay, so for those who don't know who the Blood Hunter is, essentially, they are, think of them like fighters, right? They're like warriors, but they have made either some pacts with some like some patrons essentially, or they essentially can turn themselves into monsters to fight other monsters. That's probably one way to put it. And again, this is not an official D&D class, but was made by Matthew Mercer and was really popular that a lot of people do play it. So I just adding it in here. But essentially, you're using blood magic instead of regular magic. So the theme a lot for these guys is kind of dark and edgy, and you can become like a Lycan, or again you can get help from like a Patreon. I think they have a mutant subclass, but it's not necessarily becoming a mutant. Here it is. Yeah, so the subclasses here is Ghost Slayer, Lycan, Mutant, and Profane Soul, which this is the one that you can work with the demon if you want, all that stuff. Kind of like a warlock once we get to that. But again, they're a little more melee focused, even though it is blood magic. But a lot of times it's pretty straightforward. It's not. It's like everything's kind of laid out for you, and you don't have to overthink things. So in general, I would, and yeah, I say the Blood Hunter has a lot of great role playing opportunities, especially if you like that dark type of things. A lot of, if you want to be gruesome, talk about blood, go for it. But I think there's a lot of great opportunity there. So I feel like overall, this is it's kind of okay, but it's more on the fast side. I think that you don't end up spending more too much time. So I feel like these guys are almost kind of in order. Um, generally kind of like that lineup right there. I didn't mean to move. There you go. I would say in that order. If you want the simplest to the least simplest in the fast category, I would say just like that. Okay. Um, let's go to the half casters. Okay. So we'll start with Artificer here. When it comes, so the Artificers, let me show some pictures over here. So the Artificers, think of what's the word? Steampunk. A lot of people call them the like steampunk people, but essentially in D&D, they are inventors, right? They create gadgets um to just aid themselves in daily lives. But some, like this dude right here, has created like a mechanical companion, so like a dog. They can wield some weapons, but again, their role isn't to be up in front. Their I forget their actual hit die. I want to say it's a D8. I think it's probably a D8. Oh, I passed it. Where is it? Passed it. Yeah, D8. Okay, so D8 was right here. So they have a normal amount of health, right? But their thing is, and their magic is not like magic. It's more like they invented the magic. So, so instead of sending a fireball or something, it's more of a container that when thrown, it erupts fire, right? Kind of like a bomb, essentially. Um, so Artificer has some cool elements there, but again, since they're a half caster, they're more focused on this one. I'll say a little bit more on support. They can do attack and they can tank, especially if you pick their armorer subclass, which allows you to change pretty much your body into like a robot suit. But at the same time, it just depends on what you're picking. Alchemist is a little more support and focusing more on your ability to create items and doing your magic. Battlesmith, this is the one that allows you to create your companion. Right, it can be like a dog, it can be like a little like owl thing, if I remember correctly, a little flying thing. I will cast name palm. Oh god, that's and I'm not sure if they can. That's more a wizard, I think, in the game. But yeah, so each subclass is a little bit different, and so it gives you some flexibility. Just how so I think that's the thing about half casters; they have a lot of flexibility in them. So when it comes to when it comes to the Artificer, I would say, because at the beginning, I feel like there's a lot of things that kind of get thrown at you. Um, it, I think they require a little bit more research than normal. I think when running like first level, you do have to pick out a couple of spells, so you got to take a little more time. And obviously, leveling up, you might want to plan out a few things. So I would say, as far as time goes, they will go a little bit. It will take a little bit more than some of the other classes. Okay. So again, this for those anyone just joining, this is how much time it would actually take you, especially if you're a new player, because you want to be considering your job, your work, your family, and then actually the time to create your character. As far as the class goes, when you're up, from the first time you create it to every single time you're leveling up, I say they fall here. I believe they're sometimes okay, but just so some variety here, I think I'm gonna put them in the research. You want to like really understand their role and what they can do. Okay, cool. Let's go with the Ranger next. So, the Ranger, think of everybody always thinks of. I totally not. I'm saying the wrong person. I was gonna say not Legolas, but the other guy from from Lord of the Rings, the Shadow dude. I can't remember his name, but Eragon, right? So everybody always thinks of him because it's like bow and arrow, but they're both Legolas and Eragon of good examples of a ranger. But the thing about rangers is they're more focused on distance fighting, but they level up similar to a fighter would. The only difference is you're focusing a little bit more on being able to like track certain monsters at times. They're trying to bring that flavor, that role play back into the character class a little bit more. They are focused a little bit more on distance fighting, so they're using those bows, crossbows. But you can have a ranger who has double weapons, right? So, and they're trying to make that easier. And there's a character that's famous in D&D called Driz, and he is the ranger, has a pet panther, I believe, and fights with like here it is. This is the dude right here, right there. And fights with some two double swords, right? So there are different types of rangers you can play with. It doesn't have to just be the bow and arrow, but that's typically the ones they play. And again, there's different types, but what makes them apart for them, again, they're not about being up in the front. They're more about being more in the distance, supporting. They have magic that can trap your enemies, so you can just rain down fire on them. And just want to look at the subclasses here. There you go. So they have Beastmaster, which allows you to have a companion like a panther, a sample, or a dog, or a cat, however you want to do. Gloomstalker, kind of like an assassin. It's kind of like it kind of pretty much like a rogue, but they put it into the ranger class. Horizon Walker's kind of cool. You can have like bees to distract the butterflies. Hunter, or Monster Slayer. Oh no, sorry, the bees one, Stormkeeper. This one's more you can teleport around. I want to play one of those. It sounds pretty cool. And then Drake Warden, you can I think you fly on a dragon like a drake. So they're pretty cool. Rico, you wrote Rangers do bushcraft. They're bushmen, yes. So you can literally sit on top of a tree, wait for your enemy, and snipe them, right? You can be that sniper type role. But overall, so we're going back to this list here. I would say because the ranger kind of it follows a pretty straightforward type of fighter vibe. The only thing that you're doing is like picking out like one or two spells here and there. That overall, as far as time consumption goes, when you're first creating a ranger and you are leveling them up afterwards, I would say this falls into the okay. Like it's pretty straightforward. You can read the spells, and you don't, and you're not being overwhelmed with choices. I think that's the biggest thing. When it comes to some of these classes here, so I would put them in the okay, so yeah. And I'm going to try and move through this quickly here. And I love your responses. Again, type in the chat if you want to come onto the live stream. You already know. Type Fireball, questions, share your advice, share your opinions. I love that, guys. Okay, and the reactions as well. Okay, next here we have is the Paladin. Okay, so let me find that Paladin tab. Boom. Okay, so the Paladin. Notice that they look a lot like fighters, essentially, right? But where fighters can be like I would say more acrobatics, right? A fighter can still wield a bow, could wear light armor like a rogue. Paladins, a lot of times they are focused on more heavy armor. They're essentially binded by a either a social contract or even a godly one, where so essentially when it comes to paladins, they can also be a tank. They can be offensive type characters, and they have a good amount of health, just like a fighter would. The only difference is where a fighter can attack multiple times, and almost use no magic. The paladin does have, they can do some basic attacking, and they have great shielding and be able to cast magic. Where their magic is a little bit more focused on healing in emergencies, but also maneuvering around. So they got their spell Great Steed, or Finding Great Steed, where they can like summon essentially like a horse or even like a unicorn later on at higher levels, and you can like literally fly on your unicorn. But I believe you gotta make sure your DM is okay with that. But essentially, the biggest thing when it comes to their spells is smite, which allows you to use your spell to do extra damage. So they are dealing damage. So here's divine smite right there. Okay, that's what it's called, and it adds a 1d8 for each spell level that you do it. And they're kind of messing with it a little bit right now, but in general, it seems like they're keeping smite. That's the kind of thing about it. And I say the only thing when it comes about when it comes to the Paladin is when role playing. I say the first time I heard of Paladin, I was kind of scared to try it because there seems to be like a big role playing aspect of the class. Like if you pick one, you have to play a certain way. And my advice for you as a beginner is don't worry about it. But just how it sounds here, Oathbreaker is a paladin who breaks their oath. Redemption. No, I'm thinking of the cleric class. I don't remember redemption. Where's crown is like somebody committed to a certain like crown. I'm trying to remember some of these watchers. Yeah, you have to take a look, but don't feel like so much obligated to like role play them to the T. Just have fun, right? But again, similar to the ranger, the paladin is pretty close to that fighter. All they're really doing is throwing in a couple extra abilities that allows them to use divine magic in a different way, and they just get a couple of spells here and there, just like the ranger. And I think they're okay. They're gonna take. I think. So just so you know, from fast to okay, it is gonna be a big time difference. So anytime you start putting in spells, it just takes a little bit more time, but they're okay. Like, so imagine if these fast characters just took you an hour to create, okay would be like, say 2 hours, maybe like that. Maybe I should do that, like 1 hour. This is 2 hours, right? Just to kind of give a reference, right? Not that it actually would take you an hour or so. This is just to give you a reference, like, like this is going to take you more to create your character or to level them up, because sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm playing and well, I was playing a cleric one time and I leveled him up, and it took me a while just to level him up. So, but we're getting there, okay? So cool. That's just a nice little reference, okay? Not this exact. Okay, so now we're kind of getting into the spellcasters, all right? But again, I put the warlock here because they play a little bit more like half casters. But getting into them, yeah, we'll start with warlocks here. Boom. So warlocks, for those who don't know, you essentially can make a pact with a patron, and all your patrons can be a demon. It can be like a giant octopus. It can be like a raven queen. I'm trying to think. It could be a genie. So essentially, these patrons give you your powers. Typically, most of the time, dark in nature, right? So similar to that blood hunter earlier that we were talking about. But when it comes to them, they're more like unique magic users. You can cast your spells, but you're limited a lot. So sometimes you have to find other ways to you're kind of doing utility. It's kind of support as well. I feel like you do some offensive capabilities, you do support, you can even heal with certain classes in the warlock, and you can do some casting. I wouldn't say that they're great at everything, but the flavor is there if you enjoy it. Just to kind of give you an idea, each of these is an example of what type of patron you would be getting as a subclass. But essentially, I don't remember Archfey right now, but Celestial, obviously like more of a divine being. Foundless is that giant octopus. Fiends like a demon. Genie, Great Old One, I think that's Cthulhu run, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while. Hexblade, pretty much you give your soul to a weapon, that magical weapon, undead and undying. But yeah, I feel that there's some complexity to the Warlock a bunch. I would say let me kind of and by the way, I haven't like predetermined these ahead of time. I'm doing this live with you guys. So right now, I feel they're kind of falling more on the research tier, where because they have these things called I'm saying it wrong right now. Not innovations. Is it innovation? Something I can't think of the right word right now. Invocations. That's what it was. That just that add to the character's complexity. Okay, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. But also their spell casting is just off. It's different than the other spellcasters here, and there's some rules essentially that you need to like follow, like, and it's just different than others. If you start with it, maybe you're okay. I think that's fine. So maybe I think regardless, I think it still falls into the research section because you want to, and one of the harder ones I think to start with because you need to like kind of really understand what your abilities do for you. So, but again, regardless of what I say here today, if I said Warlock, don't choose it. If you want to play a Warlock as your first character, do it. Okay. I tried to play a Warlock, like a Lizard Folk Warlock, for a little bit. It was like kind of like a one shot thing. And I enjoyed it, even though it was like 1 or 2 sessions. So, but I was confused while I was making it. Did I do this right? So it just takes a little bit more. Okay. So that's Warlock. Let's go to Cleric here. So Cleric is another divine spellcaster, just like the Paladin. And they tend to be more on the religious side of things, but they don't have to be, right? But usually at times you can. The cool thing about this one, you can role play like you having a certain god or some sort of entity that does help you. Typically a neutral, not like evil in any way, but maybe you could if you like. But I know they have weapons and they can attack, but the thing about clerics, they're kind of like a jack of all trades class. Like you can have a group of all clerics and have a different type of cleric. You can have one that's more offensive. You can have one that kind of tanks a little bit more. You can have one that does really really good healing. You can do one that is just all about support, and they all have abilities to role play. So the cleric's a great class as far as a beginner goes. Mechanics, it is a little tough if as how currently things are in the game, because in the first level you do pick your subclass for cleric, which is going to add time as your first time. Now you got to pick between, let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 different subclasses, and this is your first time. Then you gotta like learn about each one of them. So, and they're all cool, right? But that's something that's going to add to your time, especially for a first time player, to really understand what type of cleric you want to play. And for me, I always tried to play a like in your face, I'm gonna attack cleric. I was never the type of cleric player to go, oh, I'm gonna heal you. I'm the one to like run up into the action, which you can do to a certain extent in this game, but maybe not how you expect, like in a video game or something. Just slightly different. But I think overall, because again, you're gonna have to pick from your spells right off the bat, and you're picking a subclass. Those two things. When it comes to as far as time goes, right? Being friendly, the cleric's great. A lot of times people they put them like in a higher tier, like, oh, they're like an A tier or S tier for a beginner. But as far as time consumption and you moving up at every single level, I would say they fall into that research right in the beginning. Right in the beginning. Later on, I think maybe it goes into a little bit of the okay section. So maybe I'll put them a little bit more there, right? I'll put a little more forward on this list where they can get to a point where they're pretty easy to work with, but in the beginning you're gonna need some time. But things are pretty straightforward. I say probably the most complicated thing that I have is divine. I'm totally not saying divine intervention. And I gotta look. What's the name of it? Channel Divinity. Totally off. Channel Divinity. That's probably the most complex thing that have best level 2. Everything else is pretty easy and pretty straightforward. So, but spells just add a lot. They add a lot to your time. Bard. I'm trying to go through this quickly here for you guys now. But Bard is similar to first of all, totally different than a cleric. But I feel that they fall similar to a cleric over here. So I'm just gonna move that like right there. But as far as cleric goes, they're way different. They don't play exactly the same. They're the musicians, they're the dancers, they are the actors, and typically focus more on support roles. A lot of the spells don't focus on damage, but they do have some really good damaging spells. They can create like little houses, like a tiny hut for you to like relax in for the rest of the party, which they'll love. They talk shit essentially. They can talk smack. This is a great class to like if you're kind of shy, because it kind of doesn't force you, but it kind of gets you more involved with the game, because they focus more on charisma, more charismatic type of player, and sometimes you're gonna have the best skills for talking in the game, so it might encourage you to do so. But essentially, yeah. So that's Bard. You got Bard of creation, eloquence, glamour, lore. So Bard's all about writing down the lore. Think of the Bard from The Witcher, right? He's always telling stories. That's a little bit more the lore guys. Spirits, we can communicate with some spirits. Swords, they can attack, valor, and whatnot. But yeah, so I'll say they fall into here. You still got to deal with your spell casting. But they're, yeah, I was gonna say, you guys deal with the spell casting, but overall, the biggest time consumption would be just going through those spells. And they have a lot of great things to support the party, which is great. As far as, so next one we've got Druid. We're almost done here, which is good. There's Druid. So Druid, their magic is a little bit more based on nature. They can like create like a fog cloud where you can't see through it. Like create thunderstorms, snow, at later levels, and essentially be one with nature, and they can transform themselves into animals. There's certain subclasses, Circle of the Moon Druid, where you can become like get really good at transforming into animals. So that's something you want to do. But overall, they're they have some offensive spells, right, that does damage, but they're a little bit more on support, and you know that you can like change the earth underneath your enemies to make sure that they don't get to you. As an example, they can heal, right? If you want to become, there's some subclasses that allow you to heal really well with them. Talk about subclasses. That's why I brought these up so you can see them. So there's Druid of the Dreams, the Moon. That's the one that lets you transform a little better into animals. The stars, so your power comes from the stars, right? Wildfire, so it comes from fire. Spores, like this from mushrooms, you kind of infect. I believe essentially you kind of have like your own like spore army, kind of like a necromancer would. I gotta read that one again. It's been a while. But when it comes to, again, but they are full spellcaster. Everything's pretty straight up. But again, when it comes to beginner and it comes to amount of time, I would say, yeah, I don't know if any of right now I'm thinking any of these fall under the dead. Like, oh my god, it takes so long. But it really depends on the person, right? I think at the end of the day, Um, yeah, I'll keep going here because there are some differences between wizard and sorcerer here, but overall, um, some things can be really straightforward for some people, and some things can't. Okay, it just takes a little longer. And again, I didn't pre-plan any of this. I thought I was like, hey, I'm gonna need 4 categories. I guess I don't. Right, I'm feeling right now that both of these are gonna go here. Because just in general, but maybe for some of you, Bard might take you 4 hours, or the Cleric might take you 4 hours. Right, it just depends on what you're feeling and what's appealing to you more. But overall, once we kind of get here, um, the complexity kind of changes. Um, actually, kind of looking here, I think at the end these might go here, and at the end, and let me explain why. Okay, so let me start with the sorcerer, which was in the spellcasters, and so the sorcerer, essentially they're a magic user. They can attack with magic, um, and but like their magic comes from them naturally. Okay, so you can have one with like that has like dragon like scale armor on, like it comes out of them naturally. Um, some that are more celestial. Cast fireballs, cast so, uh, like meteors, and uh, be able to teleport. The biggest thing with them currently is you don't have a lot of flexibility with your spells. So when you level up, you got to pick all your spells, and if you don't pick the right ones, then it just like it's hard to change them because you only can change one at a time. But there are some currently. I know the Aberrant Mind and the Cleric Soul doesn't give you that restriction. And they're working on making every single class, even Druid and Wizard, where you can just change your class, your spells every single day. So it um allows you to have that flexibility in your spell choices. But but overall, um, but overall great. And just plays just like a wizard, except you don't have to worry about your book, where it has all your spells, but you're contained to your spell list, which is smaller than a wizard. And when it comes to the wizard, they have access to pretty much all the spells in the game. Um, but you need that spell book essentially, like right here. You need to write them down during the game. Um, and there's a lot of spells to choose from. So when you're first starting, um, the thing that's I think the overall the suckiest thing that Dungeons and Dragon creators are working on right now is making sure that the name of the spell actually represents what the spell does. Um, so the just kind of an example here. I can't think of a great one, but say there's a spell called sleep, and you can put your enemies to sleep, but they have some spells where it would be called something. So just take an example, sleep, and but it doesn't make the enemy asleep. That'd be really weird, right? And they have a lot of spells like that. So so that's why when it comes to reading any spellcaster, it just takes a little more time as well. But anyways, that's kind of my list here. Try to do that kind of quickly here. Um, and overall, I would say this is kind of where it lands as far as how much time you're going to be spending with your with your with your class, depending on what you pick for your character. Um, but yeah, let me know what you guys thinking here. How I'm doing here. I've just been kind of talking, right? But let me know if you guys with me. Any questions here? Again, feel free to interrupt me anytime because I'm really here for you guys. And let me switch over. Let me switch over to screen. And then again, totally right fireball, and we'll have you right there. We'll have you right there in the middle of the screen where you can ask your questions, where you can share your advice or your opinions. Okay. But but yeah, so I wanted to kind of just go through that quickly there for you guys. And if not, here's a question for you guys. Um, So I'm thinking of just doing some hangout hours where we can just hang out. Thinking of just watching some videos. You guys can write in the chat. What do you guys think of that? So, and they won't necessarily be me teaching anything or trying to help out with anyone. It's just like, hey, we're here, we're hanging out, and yeah, what do you guys think about that? But yeah, let me know too if you want me to review any of the classes. Okay, so again, so mainly the melee ones are the ones that are gonna be the fastest, and depending on how much time. Again, regardless of what I'm saying up here, if you really want to play a druid, maybe the druid's down here, right? Say the druid is the one that's like takes the longest. If you really want to play it, then do it. Right? Don't let me stop you. Okay. Yeah, and I think I stand by my what I was saying earlier. It's just when it comes to the spellcasters, it just takes a little longer. Um, not that they yeah, they're all unique in their own way. I try to kind of explain that a little bit for those who are new. Um, but I think that's something very important to consider. Your time, right? How much can you put into actually um do that? Okay, so Rico, you put fireball. Okay, so this is what I want you to do, man, because I want you. I'm kind of confused by your question, but go ahead and click on the link on top of the chat. All right, and let's have you come onto the live stream. You can ask that. Okay, so click on the link up there. There you go, right there. It's up there. It's in the description. It says Backstage Link. Okay, and let me go ahead. And you're gonna be on air, so make sure you have some headphones. Yeah, make sure you have some headphones on if you can, so we're not getting any feedback. Probably won't. And this is the first time doing it, so it'd be great if you can join me on there. But I'll try to answer your question regardless right now, and hopefully when you come on, um, actually clarify. So you asked, what do you think of the class fantasy of each class? Okay. Um, so the class fantasy. Yeah, let me use those pictures. Let me go to those pictures because I think that's going to help a lot with with what I doing. Okay, and I need to pull up the tab again, and then we'll keep an eye there for you. Okay, see if we come onto the actual live stream. But so oh, there we go. I wanted this one. Boom. So we can go through each one since you want to know for the class fantasy of each one. So what do you think of the class fantasy of each class? So yeah, when it comes to Artificer, I think that it's pretty unique. Because they're not saying, hey, they're magic. They're not saying that they're magic users. They're saying that, hey, they put in the science first, and they're tinkerers and really trying to uh do things a different way. Like as far as the fantasy goes, I think Artificers are like right up there. Um, they have very great fantasy. As far as the execution, right from the subclasses, the armor is real cool. That's the one that you can pretty much create your own suit of armor. Something like this. This is an actual race. This is a Warforged race, but essentially you're making a suit of armor for your guy like this, even though they look like that. So that's pretty cool. You got artillerists. We can have a gun. You have a battlesmith, right? You can have a companion. So there's a lot of great fantasies in there, and I'm just double checking. Okay. I don't see you yet. I don't see you. Click that link, bro, if you want to come on. But that's the Artificer there. As far as the Barbarian goes, um, I feel that they do a pretty good job. Actually, they do a really good job. It used to feel pretty lonely, I guess, with the Barbarian. It almost seemed like everybody always played like Conan the Barbarian type thing. Um, Kind of like the wild man, but then they started adding more and more subclasses over the years, and essentially you have so Ancestral Garden was always cool, like essentially like in more of a nature barbarian. So like you got like these horns growing out of your head, just like earthly look. Battle Rager was there before, but essentially you have like spiked armor. Beast is more of a newer one. Essentially you grow fangs and teeth, and you can like jump around like if you're freaking I think I'm Wolverine right now from X-Men. But essentially that. Berserker, just a standard. Storm Herald um brings the call of lightning to your barbarian, which is great flavor. It just could be better execution in general. Totem Barbarian, you're getting kind of like tribal. I really like it. It's more animal, like more animal totems, tribal like, but there's some really good things in there. Wild magic, essentially try to add a little bit of that magic feel to a barbarian subclass, which doesn't have very much magic at all. Um, so yeah, so and then Sela, which is more of a from I think the flavor is a little bit more of like godly, like kind of being seen by like a divine entity. And like again, I was mentioning they're pretty strong. They can get revived pretty easily. So yeah, great flavor in there. I think overall, just as a basic class goes, I think the Artificer is beating the Barbarian for flavor. Just you see the Artificer, you read on it, and you're like, okay, I understand the fantasy. Where the Barbarian just seems like pretty standard, and now once you start reading the subclasses, you're filling in those gaps. Oh yeah, okay, I see how this works. I see how that works. So I think the Artificer sub fantasy is a little bit clearer. And then yeah, just looking. I don't see you right there, man. You're gonna be right there. But okay, let's keep going. We'll keep going for Rico. Bard. So I think the Bard fantasy that they do here is pretty clear cut. And yeah, I feel like the Bard is one of the more popular characters in the game, like classes in the game, and it's always the jokes, right? Roll a d20, um, can you seduce a dragon type thing. So and I so you have that vibe going for you. You're already kind of going from a great vibe, and I think that they're doing a really good job of expanding the flavor, expanding the fantasy. That they're not just you know singers and only play lutes. Um, Even though I think a majority of people that's what they're gonna do. So my background's in music, so like I know I want to play like a drummer bard, just super loud. um, but yeah, just going to the subclasses. Again, they got a class that they can create things out of nothing almost. Glamour bard, so they're like like Liberace, essentially spirits. One that fights a little more melee like whispers. I have to get away from my phone for sure. I mean, you can still join me, man. You can still join me. Um, but yeah, overall that's doing pretty good. I feel it's pretty standard though. Pretty standard fantasy. Blood Hunter. I think it's clear cut. You're understanding that they use blood magic. They're pretty much people who decided to turn themselves into monsters to fight other like deadly monsters like vampires, lycans, mutants. Um, so I think there's really great flavor there, and the class delivers on it. I think that's what I've been focusing on. Right, I've been focusing on what it actually looks like, feels like, but like does the class deliver on it? Cleric, um, you know, I like playing clerics. I just never like really understood what a cleric was besides just like more of a religious type of thing, um, type of character. Just from like any games, growing up playing MMOs. Um, but as far as the flavor goes, I think you get a lot of your flavors from the just from all the different types that they have. of subclasses that you can pick for your cleric, and I think that's where the flavor is really coming from. That we understand that the divine, and that's cool, but like you can get a one that does focus more a little bit more on magic, one more on death, more on like blacksmithing, more on grave is almost like death, but just like different knowledge, life, light, which is more fire. See, this is an example of that. They should call this one like the fire light or something like that. But nature, order, peace, which is pretty cool. Just focusing more like passive. So I think your flavor comes a lot from the subclass that you pick in general. So I'm reading what you wrote, Rigo. Oh, was the fireball for making like a video call? Sorry, I don't think I can do that. My spoken English is abysmal. Okay, I know Spanish, so I do know Spanish. But yeah, so whenever you write fireball, which is totally cool, man. But when you write fireball, then that's telling me, hey, I want to join the live stream. So that's why it says in the bottom over there. So type fireball to join the talk show. So that means after I call your name, you'll join that with that link, and I will send you to the backstage, and then you will literally pop up right there in the middle, and we can kind of like a talk show, right? That's the idea. So if you do like the idea, let me know, guys. Because I would love to have more people actually join and have this conversation back and forth. But it's still work in progress. Okay. But going back to over here, I'm going through all of these for you, Enrico, since you asked. Okay. But I think that's where the most of the flavor comes from, the cleric. So I think the barbarian is stronger than the flavor. Barbarian flavor stronger than the cleric, in my opinion. Druid has strong flavor for sure. The fantasy, that's not, I'm just using the word flavor for fantasy, but and I think I got my first like experience from a druid was more from World of Warcraft, right? I didn't really know what druids were, and just them being able to like transform into animals and have these like earthly magic powers. I'll say that druid is one of my favorite classes, like one of my favorite like flavors in general, just more earthy. So and then they're expanding the flavors with it, right? There was, I think I was telling you, there was wildfire and there's spores and stars and moon, land, dreams, right? So they're just spending on it, and the class itself does a good job. The spells providing that fantasy for you. So, and thank you for asking this question, by the way, Rico, because it really is, it's helping, right? It's helping even for those who are considering a class for the first time, right? Fighter, I think the fighter is pretty straight up like on point as far as the flavor goes. You understand what a fighter is, what they're supposed to do. In their description, that talks about that they are a trained warriors essentially, and like the class backs it up, right? You get an attack. Now you're starting to get some weapon. The game's coming out with weapon masteries or properties they can give to weapons to like do extra stuff, make an enemy fall down, or do extra damage, whatever the case is, maybe. So that's helping, but then the subclass expand. I think there's great subclasses in here, like a samurai. Who thought would do a samurai, or like a psychic warrior, or a fighter that does a little bit of magic, or Echo Knight's one that you can create shadows and like pretty much move with the shadows. I'm trying to think. I don't know the Naruto. Think of like shadow clones. There we go. Yeah, right. I know a little bit of Naruto, but like the shadow clones from Naruto, just except they're all like black. So looking cool. A champion is just think of your gladiator guy. That's gonna do bigger damage. Also battle master, more tactician, leader type role. Cavalier is supposed to be more on defensive, but also like on top of horses. Purple Dragon Knight's more helpful aid. And then they have a fighter class just for archers, so Arcane Archer. So again, you can be an archer with a fighter class. You don't have to go ranger. So I think they do a really good job with the fantasy of the fighter in this game. Um, just changing it up, and I'm sure there's more. There's a lot more that can be done with it. It's just um, things have to be play tested and whatnot. Monk. So the monk was always kind of always intrigued me, but I know for some other people it just didn't really hit. Um, as the concept is really cool, right? You can actually, I remember thinking like first time I heard of the monk, I was like, oh, that's badass. You can just be like a shaman monk and kick people's ass, punch them. But over the years and currently, they're trying to improve this. It's just the class itself hasn't been fulfilling on the fantasy. It does, like, you can still punch, you can like stun the enemies. I'm trying to think of some other abilities. I haven't really played monk too much. Um, you can play as a drunken master, this and that, but like the execution in the game is poor right now, and they're trying to make that better with the newest of playtest material. That should be coming in next year. But overall, the monks they're a great class. They can be a really strong class, especially in the later levels. Um, but I feel right now the they haven't done enough to move away from that Asian inspired um theme, and that's what they're trying to do. So astral self, so kind of like think Kung Fu Panda, right, when he's like in his astral form. um Ascended Dragon, Drunken Master, right? I think Jackie Chan, the movie Four Elements, supposed to be like Avatar. Kenzai is a little more weapon, right? So just like think of like a regular monk that uses weapon. Long Death, I think of Bruce Lee. Mercy is more of healing. Open hand reminds me of Kung Fu Hustle, essentially, just because it has the word hand in it. Shadow, like a shadow monk. Sun Soul, right? So the flavor is there, but the flavor is like really stuck to just one type of monk, which is more Asian influenced monk, and they're working on that to kind of change it more, essentially. So yeah, that's what I have with that. Paladin. The flavor comes from the role playing. I feel, um, this is my basic description of a paladin. You you wield a big weapon. You have armor. You can be on a horse, and you can hit really hard. If I was going to describe it in simple words, that's my simple description of a paladin. Um, and like you have your oaths, and your oaths can be to a magic like to a god, just like a cleric would do. Um, but they're known, right, and a lot of games they're known as that tank. They're known to do that damage as well. um I think they're really strong in this game. I think they're just a little bit good of everything. They have a little bit of good of everything. More on the physical side versus the spell side. They're kind of more weaker on the spells. Like a cleric is way stronger. Um, and then essentially, yeah, if you put them to scale, the paladin and the cleric are in the opposite scales of each other. Where paladins are really good on the physical side and a little bit weak on the magic side, and then clerics are a little bit weaker on the physical side of things, and then stronger on the magical side of stuff. But they're both really strong as far as the classes goes. But as far as flavor goes, I just they could work on the flavor. Um, a lot of things don't speak to me, except this Oathbreaker. I haven't played Oathbreaker. Essentially, as somebody who betrayed their oath against somebody. Like, I give you my word, and you're like, forget that. I'm going to do my own thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. You just gotta, if you like it, you like it. But I don't think I like the flavor too much because it's too similar to a fighter. Um, kind of similar to a cleric. just except you're more of a knight. I think that's the thing. They need to, as far as flavor goes, they need to make this like, hey, you are the knight, and paint it like that even more. It's there, but just not. It's not. It wasn't there. That wasn't the first thing that popped into my head, you know. So they can play into that more side of it. That I think that'd be stronger on the fantasy side of things. Excuse me, Ranger. I don't know about you, but I think almost everybody likes shooting things with a bow, or at least that's just me. So I think the flavor's there. Just being a badass with the bow. But you can play with swords and move up there, move in and out. The game, the mechanics of the class does a really good job of fulfilling on that fantasy, and then you have a lot of different options of doing that, right? So different animal choices like a dragon or beasts or some bees, or being more of assassin, or being a hunter, or being a more monster slayer type of hunter. So I think that's like A+ there, on that. Assassin, well, not assassin. I keep calling it assassin because that's the first thing you think of as when it comes to the rogue. But as far as the fantasy goes, they, yeah, I think the fantasy comes more from the subclass than anything. Just because there's different types of rogues. You got your squashbuckler, who more like kind of your Captain Jack Sparrow. You got your mastermind, more planner, kind of like Sherlock Holmes style assassin, arcane trickster, be able to do some little magic thief. Right? I think it comes more from the subclass. Just looking at it raw, the you don't quite. I feel like you never don't know what to expect from a rogue in any game until you just see the abilities, or you start learning, or until you start using them. So all I really know is like you're supposed to be kind of sneaky, be able to move in and out a little bit, and they can do that. They can do that. But I think it's sometimes really dependent on what subclass you have, or what type of items, magic items in the game do you have to help you do that better. So that's where it's at with the rogue. The sorcerer. Sorcerer's really cool flavor wise. You think of like, first thing you think of is like Harry Potter. You don't need no spell book. um, and they can just cast spells. I think the flavor is stronger than the actual game mechanics of the class. Because right now you're limited of how many spells you can have, but I know they're trying to change it to you can switch between spells from day to day in the game, and that's going to give you a lot more flexibility, and that's going to add to the flavor. And yeah, I think everybody thought about having superpowers or being able to cast some sort of time stopping spell or something. That's all something for me. So they got wild magic, which is a storm. They got shadow magic, lunar magic, divine, draconic, clockwork, aberrant mind. So yeah, they got some cool fantasies in there. Warlock. Warlock, I think one of the strongest ones from when I first started. I was like, okay, that's really cool. I like the concept of Warlock. I just don't understand it, how to play it. That was my first impressions of the Warlock. Was a bit confused at first, but the idea of you having this demon that you have to answer to, they can be like, I need a blood sacrifice every single week, or they'd like, we just need to create a prank every single day on somebody and I'll be happy, right? It can be killing somebody too, making a prank. It's just interesting, and they have a lot of different patrons that you can pick from. They all know how to be evil. They can be good, like celestial, divine. But essentially, you're kind of a genie, right? You're calling on a higher power to provide you your magic, your abilities. And a lot of times it's creepy. More creepy abilities than anything. But yeah, I think there's great flavor in the Warlock, and I think that's why a lot of people like them right now, and they're having a hard time trying to find a good place for them with them currently the Wizards of the Coast, because again they're literally trying to make them into half casters, like gave them the same spells, amount of spells and slots like these guys, but they didn't really like it, so they're going to try something else. Yeah, so we'll see where that ends up next year when the new book comes out. And then Wizard. Finally got to Wizard. There's a lot of classes, man. This is a loaded question. You gave me a loaded question, Rico. And as far as the flavor goes for Wizard, I think you can't go wrong with Wizard. Everybody knows what a Wizard is. Um, and I think off the bat, I was disappointed that the Wizard's so tied to the book. For me, like I was like, my view of a wizard was always more like a sorcerer, where they just like somehow studied all the magic and they can just cast it. But in the game, you have to be possessing of that book, um, which is fine. It is what it is, and you still can do a lot of badass spells that can destroy or like really change the field. Um, so it is what it is. So it's more being studious. It appeals to those people who are studious themselves. Um, Probably very intelligent or like scientists or doctor like medical type people. Um, that's my thoughts. That's just my opinion. The overall flavor is great. And then they expanded on it with and the class fulfills on it, right? It's pretty simple. Here's the book. This is how many spells you can prepare. You gotta find the spells and so on. If it fills on it, on the fantasy, and there's a lot of different types of essentially you know all magic, but you can specialize in different types of magic. So you can specialize in war magic, transfusion, necromancy, gravity, uh, divination, chronology, which is more time. Blaze Singer, you can actually be up in front and do damage with weapons. So that's one that you can attack with, but you still got your magic. Anyways, yeah, that's everything there. Okay, are you satisfied, Rico? Whew, that took me a while. So let me know if are you not entertained? That's what I'm thinking of right now. No, let me know if you got some more questions here. Okay, totally happy to hang out with you guys some more. And nobody answered my question, you guys. As far as sorry, I was trying to pull something up. Where am I? There it is. As far as you have any regular hangout hours, um, I mean by that, would you guys show up if I just did like a live stream where we're just hanging out, and I'll probably watch some videos and chat and just hang out? Is that something that you guys would be interested in? Let me know, and that'd be cool. But yeah, if there is no more questions as well, then we'll probably be ending this here for today. Um, for quick recap, again, biggest thing that you can do for yourself is if you're excited about a character, go after that character, because you might play that character for a couple of weeks or a couple of months before you try another class. So, um, so go for it. Right. The second thing is really consider how much time you are going to require. It's going to require of you, not just from actually playing the game, but outside of the game to prepare for your stuff. So that's why I suggest going more of a melee class, especially if you're super busy. If you got a little more time, maybe more of a half caster of sorts. Then if you're just really set on something, go for the spellcasters. Um, a lot of people, from what I've seen, um, they would put this list as well, not for time, but like for best for beginners. Obviously, your melee classes. I'll say these. They would even move up uh the cleric up here, and I would move up these guys up here. If we're not talking about time, right? If we're talking about what's good for beginners, I would say adding the cleric, bard, and the Artificer up to the next level, that could work out really well as for beginners. I think these are probably the three subclasses to start with. Not subclasses, excuse me, classes to start with if you're going to focus a little bit more on spellcasters. But you can. Some people even say the wizard as well. Because you got a lot of flexibility. You can change your spells a lot, like every single day, just like a cleric does. But so yeah, that would fall there. But for me, a little bit, I feel a little different about it. Anyways, okay. Well, I don't see anything on the chat, so I think it's gonna be time for us to part ways for today. But it was great having you guys here. Again, I do these. It's a Wizard live support on Thursdays at 6 p.m. And then 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And as long as if you guys are liking these, make sure you like so I can keep doing these. I want to help out as many people as I can. And yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay, guys. So I'll give this. I know the stream is a little behind, so I'll give this about like 30 more seconds here. If nobody writes anything, then I'm out. Okay, and I hope that you guys have a very good night. All right. All right. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1. All right. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight.